We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, June 11th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Luan.
Good to be here.
Good to have you. Also tunes with us today. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're now headed towards the end of the work week, and for many people that means making plans for the weekend and deciding where to spend their money. But for an increasing number of consumers, those spending decisions are about more than just convenience or price. They're also a way to express their values and also send a message. So before we dive into today's conversation, just how much impact does a consumer boycott have on a business, June?
Well, quite significant indeed. I think Arirang News has covered this news several times before. Yes, a major coffee chain in South Korea faced the backlash after a historical controversy in mid-May, and it prompted many consumers to boycott the brand. Reports suggested its payment volume fell by about 26.3% within a week. That represents a drop of roughly 48.7 billion won, or about $62 million in just 1 week. While neighboring cafes, they enjoyed a substantial increase in customers, while sales increasing by 50%. Many customers actually simply switched to other cafes. It really highlights how consumer sentiment can quickly translate into economic impact and shape corporate behavior. The backlash became significant enough that the company issued public apologies. I think we just saw the group chairman publicly apologizing to the press in Seoul. The company also even expressed a sharp decline in new apps downloads. That's significant indeed. So yes, obviously, it serves as a reminder that trust is hard to build, but remarkably easy to lose.
Right, so it wasn't just people talking about the issue online. Many actually changed where they spent their money, and competing cafes benefited as a result. And for some consumers, avoiding the brand wasn't enough. So how far are consumers these days willing to go to support a boycott?
Consumers are not willing to change their habits, switch brands, and even give up rewards or prepaid balances if they feel a company has violated their values. Some people go beyond that by throwing away every goods they bought from a boycotted brand.
Wow.
It's an example of what some call voting with your wallets, using everyday spending decisions to send a message about what kind of behavior they want companies to be accountable for.
Right, so it's interesting because for many consumers, purchasing decisions are no longer just about price or convenience. They've become a reflection of personal values. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. For many young consumers, spending money is no longer just about getting what they want. More and more, it's about supporting the values they believe in and withholding support from those they don't. Today on News Generation, we explore the evolution of consumer boycotts, look at notable examples from overseas, examine the rise of value-driven spending, and discuss whether consumers will continue to vote with their wallets in the years ahead. Just as we saw in the video, consumer spending is becoming about more than simply buying products. For many young consumers, purchasing decisions are increasingly tied to personal values and beliefs. So how are the younger generations changing the way they consume, Jian?
Yes, Suji, you're right. As you mentioned earlier, that yes, we're not just buying products. It is a form of self-expression these days. According to the Korea Consumer Agency, younger generations are increasingly expressing their social and political beliefs through their purchasing decisions. In a recent survey by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, 66.9% of Gen Z respondents said they would buy products from companies with strong ESG practices, even if they cost a little bit more. So they value a company's environmental, social, and governance standards. What's interesting is that 63.7% said they had actually stopped buying from a company because of unethical behavior or negative ESG-related issues. So many young consumers, they also practice what's known as meaning out consumption, using their values, spending habits to express their personal values and beliefs as well, in line with their own principles. So what's more, ESG influences not only what they buy, but also where they work in the future. It's quite interesting though. More than half of respondents said a company's ESG performance actually matters when deciding where to work. Influences both in the marketplace and also in the workplace as well. So for MZse대 now, consumption is no longer just about buying a single product. It's about influencing the company, influencing the market, and they really want some changes. So these days, your wallet actually speaks better than ever.
Right. So for many consumers, spending money has become a way of expressing who they are and what they stand for. And that shift is also changing the criteria people use when deciding what to buy. So what are the factors that are influencing consumers beyond price and quality, Long?
In fact, especially in today's economy, price and quality still matter, but they are not the only factor anymore. Many consumers, especially younger generations, also care about a brand's ethical image, social responsibility, and values. As Chuyan said, people are increasingly choosing brands that align with their beliefs and avoiding those they see as acting irresponsibly. So today, consumers aren't just asking, is this a good product? They are also asking, is this a company I want to support?
Right, so it's interesting that a company's reputation and conduct can now be just as important as the products themselves. And that raises an important question about how today's consumer activism compares to the past, because we have, we've seen boycotts before. So how does today's boycotts, I guess, differ from those that happened in the past?
It's a good question, though, because there is a big difference. I think what they want to achieve is different. The purpose itself is quite different these days. Well, if you look at the past, in the past, boycotts were often aimed at improving the product itself or the service that they receive from the company. But these days, consumers have access to far more information online. We have real-time updates, we have social media, constant updates at our fingertips. So as a result, people can react to social issues in the blink of an eye. So as public awareness has grown, modern boycotts are increasingly focused on holding companies accountable for their social responsibility, like, ethical conduct and consumer protection. So consumers are no longer just asking whether a product is good or bad. They're asking whether a company is going in the right direction, doing a good thing for us, for consumers. They are advocating for the right to safety and transparency at the same time. So recent boycott campaigns have shown that consumer pressure, the pressure itself, can drive meaningful change. We have seen the apologies, but now some changes in the policies as well, and apologies as well. So social media has also accelerated this process, as I mentioned, allowing these information and public opinion to spread remarkably quickly. So consumers have a much stronger voice in the market these days. Actions speak louder than advertisement these days, right?
Right, for sure. So it sounds like consumer boycotts have evolved from product complaints into broader demands for corporate accountability, and technology seems obviously to have played a major role in that transformation. So you also kind of touched on this, but other role has social media played in, I guess, modern boycott movements?
So social media has a bigger role than we think in modern boycott movement, because it spreads information quickly and connects people who share similar concerns. Personally, it has helped me become more aware of issues involving certain brands or public figures. It also makes the impact of boycott more visible, because you can see how many people are participating and how many are affected by the issue. That sense of collective action can make people feel that their choices really matter.
Right. I think it is quite motivating to see on your social media page when boycotts happen. You're like, I feel like I have to also participate and be aware as well. So social media has clearly made it easier for consumers to organize, share information, and amplify their voices. And this isn't just happening in Korea. Similar movements have emerged around the world. So we also want to hear about this directly from our viewers. So we ran a poll on Arirang's YouTube channel asking, if a brand you like becomes involved in a social controversy, what would you do? And here's what the results showed. So a slight majority, 54%, said they would stop buying the brand's products, while 46% said that they would continue using them, arguing that switching brands may not be worth the inconvenience or additional cost. So the results suggest that while many consumers are willing to align their spending with their values, practical considerations still play a significant role in purchasing decisions. So to get a more personal and in-depth perspective on this, we're going to talk to someone whose values are actually closely tied with their consumption. And that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
So to help us explore why more consumers are choosing to vote with their wallets, we're joined today by Mariel, an Estonian content creator whose work focuses on sustainability and conscious living. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Right, Mariel, so do you personally consider a company's values before buying its products?
Yeah, I definitely consider a company's values before buying its products. Personally, I pay attention to whether a brand is ethical, environmentally friendly, and also animal friendly. For example, when I buy cosmetic products in Korea, I try to find products that have the cruelty-free or vegan label on them, which is actually still not always very easy to find here in Korea. And I also try to avoid supporting companies that don't align with my own values. For example, brands that have faced criticism for poor labor conditions or other social issues. And I've also tried to be mindful of international brands associated with ongoing conflicts or wars. Of course, I'm not perfect, and I think it's actually very difficult to be a completely ethical consumer because everything is so interconnected in the modern world.
Right, I always try my best to be careful with my makeup products. So how does Korea's consumer culture compare with your country's?
Yeah, I feel that compared to Korea, people in Estonia tend to pay more attention to labels and ingredients, like such as what a product is actually made of and whether it's natural. And as I mentioned earlier with cosmetic brands in Europe, I think it's very common these days to see vegan and cruelty-free labels on products. And I think many consumers now have come to expect companies to meet those standards. And I can see that it's improving in Korea as well, but it still feels less common. And it can still be difficult to find vegan and cruelty-free products in regular stores. Um, but I think consumers in Korea often place more emphasis on the quality, effectiveness, and also like taste of a product, while ethical production may not be yet a priority for many of the consumers. However, I can see that awareness around these issues is growing, and especially among younger consumers.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. The awareness is absolutely growing here in Korea. Then, Mariel,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. Then what are the benefits and limitations of boycott?
Well, one obvious benefit is that if enough people boycott a brand that is doing something harmful or unethical, there is a higher chance that the company will change for the better or even rethink its image and practices. As for the limitations, there are often still many people who continue buying those products. So even if you try hard, the boycott may not create the outcome that you hoped for. So sometimes I think it can become very emotionally exhausting. At the same time, I don't really see avoiding certain brands as a limitation because usually there are some alternative options available. So I think it's still worth trying to stay true to your own values, even if the impact feels small.
So Mariel, when you see people around you, I guess, consuming products that you feel like aren't, I guess, environmentally friendly, which is obviously a very important cause to you, how do you deal with that?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess I try to share this information on my social media as well, and try to share awareness with other people around me. Mm, yeah,
Yeah, I think raising awareness is like the first step, and it's so important.
yeah, definitely.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, Mariel.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just spoke with a sustainability-focused content creator from Estonia about the rise of value-based consumption and the growing influence consumers can have on businesses. And while these trends are becoming more visible in Korea, they're not unique to Korea. So how does value-based consumption look like in countries like your home country, France?
So I know that people are expecting us to have like a strong boycotting culture because of our reputation for demonstrations and stuff like that. But I feel like that it's similar to Korea. We don't.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
it's not that strong. Yeah. Recently, some consumers have supported, for example, boycotts of brands like famous electric cars because they disagree with the company's image, leadership, or political associations, contributing to declining sales in some markets, like minus 63 I saw on an article. Yeah,
that's huge.
60%. Fast fashion brands have also faced criticism over sustainability and labor issues. For example, when one of those brands opened a physical store in France, many consumer questioned whether the low prices were compatible with ethical and environmental standards. But this isn't entirely new. France has a long history of consumer activism. When I was younger, there were campaigns against imported products such as Spanish fruits and vegetables because we wanted to support like local farmers and because of concern about pesticide use and environmental standards.
I see. So it does reflect also in real life as well, though. So it sounds like value-based consumption is supported not only by consumers, but also by institutions and regulations in some European countries. And that may help explain why these consumption habits have proven so resilient over time. So then, do you think value-based consumption is here to stay, Chian?
I think it's not a passing trend. This value-driven consumption is going to remain for a certain period of time in Korea. Well, because it's not going to move quickly, the social media. We still have social media with us. So people today, they want their spending to reflect who they are and what they believe in by consuming some products. In that case, value consumption can encourage companies to act more responsibly and pay close attention to consumers, what their opinions and social issues at the same time. That's certainly a positive side, positive development indeed. When consumers support responsible companies and speak up when something goes wrong, they can drive positive changes, drive positive movements as well. However, of course, there are some downsides as well. Well, we have loads of information online. Boycotts can sometimes, deepen social divisions. Some people will think about this and some people have different opinions. And this social division will create unnecessary conflict between groups as well, different groups. And also we have to think about the owners, the employees as well. In some cases, owners, small business owners, employees, they can be innocent. They could not be related to this case, but they are being affected, maybe affected even though they are not responsible for that social issue as well. So we need to get the clear picture, full information when we start this movement, when we want to get involved in that purchasing decision. So in the age of social media, people can react before they have the full picture. That's why it's quite important to stay informed and think critically all the time. And of course, we should, respect different opinions, different choices, different decisions as well. Choosing to buy or not is your choice. It's ultimately a personal decision indeed. So at the end of the day, it's your wallet, your choice.
I'm glad you emphasize how it's like your choice at the end of the day, because with social media, it's great for raising awareness, but at the same time, you kind of feel a certain sense of shame.
Yes,
and you're like,
that's so true.
You feel like anxious, like, oh, if someone judges me for using a certain brand. Yeah, so what are your thoughts on this?
I have the same thought as Chuyeon, in fact. Like, one reason is that, as we said, social media has made information much more accessible. Consumers today can quickly learn about companies' environmental impacts, labor practices, or political controversies, and they can easily share that information with others. As a result, people are becoming more conscious of whether a company's actions align with their values. But, as Chuyeon said, it can have a side effect in the end. People's opinions spreading like fire can be very harmful for a brand or their employee. I wish that consumers, including me, of course, will take more time to verify information before firmly boycotting a brand.
I think that's why there's more of an awareness about cancel culture, about the limitations of that as well.
I always try my best to be careful before canceling something.
Right, exactly. So as consumers become more conscious of where their money goes, spending is increasingly becoming a reflection of personal values. At the same time, companies are facing greater scrutiny over their actions and responsibilities. So whether this trend continues or not, it's clear that consumers today have a louder voice than ever before. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions of big things to Mulan.
It was nice to be here.
Hi, you also Chiyoung.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And hopefully the only thing you have to cancel this week is your weekend alarm clock. We are News Generation.